underway. All right. A little bit of our own technical glitch here. Perfect. Awesome, everybody. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join. And I know a lot of you are coming from the cyclone that hit, and I don't know who all that kind of impacted there, but I hope everybody is safe. And it sounds like from Eric, things have passed, but some folks are out of power and navigating. So best to all of you and your family and your business associates and everybody. Hope everybody's okay there. My operations based out of the Philippines, I'll talk. We just had a massive typhoon come by recently that was a big scare. So can certainly relate there. Yeah, pleasure to speak with everybody here today. Appreciate the opportunity to connect, and I'll give a little bit of my background as I kind of go through here, what kind of led to my experience around this subject matter with all of you. And funny enough, it's actually EO that started my whole speaking. I actually never intended to be kind of a speaker, honestly, in my entrepreneurial career, but about 10 years ago when I started the whole outsourcing world in my prior company, and kind of built a knowledge base around it, and a chapter near us in Atlanta here, Birmingham, actually, I think had a speaker cancel on them and said, hey, would you mind coming over and sharing about this whole outsourcing stuff that you know? And it went really well. And fast forward, I've spoken to 60, 70 EO chapters globally, and just love sharing content. It's a great opportunity to meet other EOers and kind of share this message. It has had a profound impact on my life. It's completely changed how I scale and grow companies. And has given me a sense of agility that I probably would have never had otherwise. So love sharing this content, and hope we get a lot of value. We're going to go fast paced. We're going to go through a lot of examples here. I promise not to make this another slow paced Zoom experience, but try and keep it high energy for you, and keep it quick. As I shared, I think New Zealand was the last one that I did. And honestly, I was pleased. I actually got a full 10 out of 10 rating on it. Because everyone shared of the positive takeaway valued experience that they had. So hopefully we'll have the same for all of you here, and a great cross section of EOers from all over the world, and maybe some folks here that I've had a chance to intersect with and meet with in the past. So look forward to engaging as we move ahead here. And post your questions in the chat. I find that I typically cover most people's questions get answered as we go through the presentation. But as things come up, if I show something on the screen that's a question for you, just post it in the chat, and then when we get to the end, I'm going to take a look at those. And if I haven't answered it already, we'll dive into those questions and run through them together with everybody. So as you can see, the topic here is how to confidently scale with outsourcing virtual assistants and easy tech tools. That's kind of a bit of a mouthful. Eric, something to say there? Are we good? Okay. But you'll see as I go through these examples exactly sort of how I kind of unpack the subject matter that we're going to be diving into here. And to share really quick off the bat, so kind of what's brought us together, and I'll share a little bit of this journey. So funny enough, during my presidency for EO Atlanta, one of our challenges was how to get our members connected better than ever, even when we can't meet in person. And so as I'll share as an example of learning how to leverage outsourced resources and creative technology, Jason Rhodes is an EO Atlanta member and knows how to write great technology. And with my company having virtual staff that can do things administratively, we said, why don't we create a program where we can do massive interconductions within our chapter to create more collisions and engagement than maybe even before COVID within our chapter? Because, within chapters, and especially within a bridge chapter, you know your form really well, people you serve in leadership with, but how you meet other people tends to be a bit haphazard. So we said, how can we make intentional collisions and introductions? So I said, why don't we just take our member list, and then can you write software that'll write random pairings and connect our members to one another? And so we created, and Jason found this visual chord graph that could show a visual depiction of how these relationships were thickening with each introduction. So every 2 weeks, we had a VA that was doing these introductions and pairing our members together. And just this is the visual depiction of actually what would occur during all those introductions. Every single intro, the thickening and the weave of the relationships just got incredibly engaged. And after doing it for just 3 months, we created over 600 one-on-one intros just within our 150-person chapter for EO Atlanta. And just the feedback from members was just tremendous. They're like, I've never felt connected or knowing other members as more efficiently. And then we said, well, the other challenge, I was SAP chair before in the chapter. I'm like, the biggest challenge we have is how do we get our SAP's value to get in front of our members? They put their logo up on the website. We try and get them in front of our forums. But I said, what if we ask our members if they'd let us do one-on-one intros via email to our members, to our SAPs? We say, look, you can't come in hot and sell, treat this like, you would a normal opportunity. So we asked, and we only had 6 of our 150 members opt out, and all the rest were like, sure, let us do a one-on-one intro. And now we're giving 24 one-on-one meetings per year of our SAPs to our members, and our SAPs are through the roof because they're getting one-on-one connection introduction to the members. So it's connecting our members better than ever, connecting our SAPs better than ever. And then EO Global ended up writing an article about this. So happy to share it with you, and had no idea how much interest this would be within the EO community. So we've got about a dozen chapters now globally that we're doing this for, that reached out. And so we're just doing it kind of as an in-kind SAP, kind of at no cost at this point for chapters. And so when they reached out to MEPA for us to speak, I say, hey, be happy to do this for you guys, particularly being a distributed virtual, chapter. So I think we're going to move forward with it. And so you'll be seeing that coming, where we're going to be doing one-on-one intros and collisions kind of within your chapter. And would ask for any of you, if any of you are a part of trade associations or business groups or what have you, think that this could be of value, would love to connect with you and share more as we move ahead. So anyway, I just want to share that at the beginning. And Jason, I think he's going to pop on here around 8:30. I'd love to give a quick intro to him. But it's a pretty cool program, classic entrepreneurial style. It started as a little side project to solve a problem during COVID when I was president for Atlanta. All of a sudden morphed into a business that I didn't realize I was going to end up kind of starting. So anyway, just thought I'd share a pretty interesting way of, also it's a great story of how we leveraged and got a business up and going and running very fast and low cost, learning, outsourcing, and using these resources. Another thing I'll share with you and provide to everybody is a list of 125 growth opportunities that we data scraped as soon as COVID hit, and we kind of navigated that. I'll share an example of data scraping is one of my favorite things to do with outsourcing. So we put together a list of over 125 growth markets and opportunities that are happening because of COVID. And we actually had an Inc. magazine article written about us for doing that. So I'll share that with you. And you guys may have seen as well, there's a nano learning series that's gotten released all within EO, where EOers themselves are actually doing mini learning series. And so I actually have a nano learning series under the same topic that just got released. That's being made available. So for any of you that are engaging the Nano Learning Series, it's a 10-part mini video series, about 38 minutes long, on the same subject matter. So I'm going to cover a lot of tools and resources and everything. And the best way I've found, and when I've done this for all chapters, is just don't have to send an email to tools@outsourceaccess.com. You don't have to write a message at all, and just put EO MEPA bridge in the subject line, just so we kind of know where it came from. And I'll send you guys a list of all the stuff that I'm going to cover in this. Growth opportunities that we data scraped from COVID. I'll send you kind of a link to that nano learning series, a bunch of other tools and resources that I'm not gonna have a chance to cover. And I also offer too, is I do kind of deep dive virtual forum sessions where we kind of do a deep dive specific in your forum and your business. And Jason offers those as well on his software programs. So just send an email to that, tools@outsource access, and we'll package up and send you a consolidated email with links to a lot of the resources and templates I'm gonna cover in this presentation. And as I said, post questions in the chat as we kind of go through here. We'll cover them at the end. Brief background, how it led me into this. As I shared, joined EO about 10 years ago. It'll be my 10th year next year. We had a manufacturing business in the teeth whitening space. We manufacture and distribute teeth whitening products all over the world. Long story short, we had a product disaster happen. We had a little teeth whitening pen product that had teeth whitening gel on one side and lip gloss on the other side. And after doing tens of thousands of units, our next batch, our manufacturer that was actually based in Taiwan, changed the bioadhesive glue that held the little brush on the side that the teeth whitening gel went into. And little did we know that happened. They shipped the next batch over to our manufacturer in California that filled the whitening gel. And it would take about 2 months, but after about 2 months of that product being filled, it would build gas and start exploding. So we basically sent 10,000 grenades globally for this product. And we had products exploding on shelves. People would take the caps off. If it didn't explode, it'd shoot across the room. Classic, EO forum share disaster. My forum was very valuable for me at that point. But long story short, that was my COVID back a number of years ago, right? Cash got tight, things got lean. I had to figure out how to make our business survive. And that's when I really dove into this gig economy outsourcing world, how to leverage global talent, low cost and fast. And I dug into it, and it helped me save my company at the time. And I built this knowledge set around it. And so we ended up exiting that business. It was actually my forum that encouraged me. They said, Brad, you kind of learned all this outsourcing gig economy stuff. Why don't you start a business around it? So that's what I've done. Initially started doing a bunch of speaking and educating on it for people to kind of bring clarity, because most people, the last reference point they have is Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week. As far as this novelty concept versus how can this fundamentally change how you build and grow your company. So I've had a chance to speak for a bunch of different organizations. A lot of you know John Maxwell, one of the most prolific leadership writers in the world. I was invited to speak at his Leadership Institute on this topic. And that's when it really let me know that, this is really moving in a very mainstream direction. I've also released a TEDx talk on this and got over 175,000 views and growing, specifically on the subject matter. I'll send you guys a link to that. I launched a podcast on it called automateanddelegate.com. Please, actually just interviewed Warren Rustan. Actually, for you know Warren, got a chance to interview him on that podcast. So very tight 20-minute where I interview entrepreneurs and how they're automating and delegating. And then all this culminated, frankly, after speaking and educating and referred people to a lot of other companies. People were like, Brad, why don't you just launch your own company? So I did. So 2019, after actually GLC in Macau, I flew to the Philippines, investigated a bunch of facilities there, found my partners that I've been working with. And in 2019, we launched, and just 2.5 years later, we're actually just over 400 employees and staff there. So I've been living and breathing this, and actually just won the Inc. Best in Business Magazine Award for our commitment to growth and excellence. So, and I'd like to give credit big way to EO. EO has been a massive part of helping me do this, particularly having to grow a company on the other side of the globe when I couldn't be there in person. So a lot of the frameworks I've learned in EO, EOS, Jim Collins, 4 Disciplines of Execution, Culture Index, all thanks to EO. I would have never learned these frameworks. That's what helped me be able to scale and grow this business on the other side of the world. So these are all frameworks too. I share some links to resources that helped us in our journey. And one of the things also is, if any of you guys are big fans of Jim Collins, I'm such a fanatic about him, and realized on his website, he's taken his entire curriculum and consolidated it into a very tight framework. And I was so passionate about it that I actually created a mini curriculum that I took my EO Atlanta board through during my presidency. And I'll send you guys a link to that curriculum if you ever want to take you or your teams through it. I've had a lot of people that have taken advantage of it. But it's all his books that he's written, which are fantastic, but he's boiled it all down to a very tight set of summaries that I can share with you. So that's just kind of a quick background, just to share that, look, I live and breathe this stuff. This isn't theory or concepts that I write blogs about from time to time, but I kind of live and breathe it every day. I'm going to really just be a big experience share and kind of take you on the journey of what I've learned in my experience in doing this, and hopefully be helpful for all of you. So I figured I'd start kind of directly with a quick video that I took when I launched this operation, actually, when I went there right after GLC Macau, to kind of show you behind the scenes, particularly in the Philippines. And for those of you that haven't explored this space and not sure kind of what things look like in some of these third world countries, what is the technology and the development and so forth. So I'm going to show you a quick video that I took that my trip over there before we launched.
Hi, Brad Stevens here, and welcome to Manila, Philippines. If you know anything about me, I'm all about virtual assistants and outsourcing. Been doing it for the last 10 years. We just had a chance to visit 20 facilities over the last 4 days. We visited Manila, Makati, Clark, seeing all the latest that there is to offer with virtual assistants and outsourcing here. We're actually at a co-working location here just in the Manila area. We're doing our quarterly strategy session with 2 of our main team members, Third and JCell. We actually got a chance to go visit a village. We actually bought for 32 kids and went and delivered for them, which was a really amazing experience. It's all about giving back.
So I'd like to show that just to kind of show a little bit of behind the scenes for those of you that haven't kind of been in some of these countries and seen what the development the technology is. And another nod to EO, you saw at the end there, we actually launched a whole give back initiative, reinvest in the communities in the Philippines. Because of EO, I learned about this whole partnership that EO has with the United Nations and commitment to implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And because of learning about that, we actually rolled that out and implemented it with our entire company in the Philippines as well. So that's kind of what that last piece was. So as I shared, this is stuff kind of live every day. The examples that I'm going to share with all of you is, look, I know some of you maybe just be starting in this path and never really kind of dove into it. Others may be complete experts and doing it every day, and some may be in between. I'm not sure where you are in that journey, so I'm going to be sharing a wide range. And the feedback I've gotten speaking for a lot of chapters is even people that are experts in this, as I share another perspective or angle they never kind of thought about to kind of engage. So hopefully everybody will get some key value. And 2 things to think about when we're kind of going into this. It's like, where do you begin with outsourcing and leveraging these resources? And honestly, it's 2 really simple questions for you to ask yourself and to ask your key managers and your staff, which is, what are you doing that isn't a good use of your time, right? What are you doing that isn't the best use of your time for your staff, that they're doing that isn't the best use of their time? And then secondly, what do you want to be doing that you can't get to, right? That's the second big bucket that people find a lot of value in this is what do you want to be doing you can't get to, and you're not getting to due to time, money, or knowledge constraints. And then third, for those employees, you end up engaging and leveraging these resources and supporting them with outsourced resources. It says, look, if we get some of these things off your plate, where do you think you can add unique value to the company, right? In a unique kind of way. So I've got a template, a Google template that I share with everybody that if you want to go through this exercise and literally just send those 2 questions, I can't tell you how many companies I've recommended this to. I said, look, take those 2 simple questions, copy and paste them, send them to all your key managers and say, look, I want you to make a list in both of these categories. We're gonna have a meeting in a week. Come bring your list. You would be amazed at how many people have done this. There's a company in New Zealand I was talking to the other day that did this. People that have been working with her for 10 years, and they came back with a list of over 60 items in both of those buckets. And they're like, well, why did you never tell me this before? Well, you never really asked me. So highly recommend going through that exercise. It's a great way to start of kind of where to begin. And the first thing I want to talk about is just the preconceived notions when it comes to outsourcing and virtual, resources that kind of hinder a lot of people to proceed. One is my staff will feel threatened if I go down this path, right? They're going to feel like I'm trying to replace them, okay? In my experience, look, if you've got an employee that's a low performer and not delivering, then they need to be transitioned anyway and aren't a good fit for the organization. But a lot of us that have really good performing employees that are great strategic thinkers and good contributors, in essence, we just want to elevate them to their highest and best use, right? And so it's about flanking them with these resources to get a much higher return. You take a VP, we had an e-commerce company we were working with that had a VP of operations that, paying $80,000, $90,000 a year to, that was being sucked into the weeds of things that weren't the best use of their time. Flanked them with a full-time virtual staff overseas that was very low cost, and now is getting 4 or 5x the value out of that individual's time. Second, so it's about elevating you and your key staff out of the administrative and operational clutter to get to the highest and best use of your time. The other thing is that people think, oh, my industry is different. There's no way I could use these resources. We have a physical product industry, or I have a bunch of blue collar people kind of out in the field, or we're in high sensitive information industries. None of it matters. I've seen every industry under the sun. In our business, we have about 200 clients in every industry under the sun. It's just, it varies how this can apply to your industry, and you'll see in some of the case studies and examples. The other, misconceived notion, and depending on which country you're in, this is a bigger or less issue, is that, oh, you're just shipping jobs out of our country. You're shipping jobs overseas. Again, this is about elevating a lot of your existing staff and you to your highest and best use of time, not necessarily always direct replacement of existing, employees. This woman here, for an example, in the United States, she was near bankruptcy with her company, and because of learning how to do outsourcing and gig economy work, saved her company and went from bankruptcy to $500,000 in revenue in 18 months and ended up employing 19 employees in the United States because of outsourcing. So ironically enough, engaging this can help you scale and grow your business and create more opportunities to actually create more need for local employees in your business. So it's kind of like this feel of kind of creating your own personal on-demand economy. It's kind of the way that this ultimately feels. And once you really understand it, embrace it, it allows you to tap into these resources very quickly, very low cost. So before I jump into the case studies, I want to talk real quick about the tools of the trade for managing virtual staff and outsourcing and communication, because this is where I find some of the biggest failure points is people stumbling where this is concerned, right? And people that have tried to go down this path and have failed. So I'm going to show you some of the tools, the simple tools and programs that I think can really make a big difference in failure and success. One of the first is screencasting. Sanjeev and Eric and I were talking about this. If you have ever explored this before, it is a game changer when it comes to communication. So one of my favorite tools is called Screencast-O-Matic. There's another one called loom.com. There's some that are out there, and some of you may be using some of these, but if not, just want to share briefly. One of the biggest failure points is people getting stuff out of their head. If they're going to get a VA in another part of the world to do CRM administration or work on website projects or manage things, is how do you get things unpacked out of your head? So with this tool, you download it. There's a free version. The paid version is like $50 US per year. But you click a little button and it puts a little dotted screen up, and it records your screen, your voice, and your mouse, right? So anything you want to quickly communicate, you click that button, puts the dotted screen, you click record. And as soon as you're done recording, it pops up this little thing and says, hey, do you want to do a quick share, which will generate a quick link, or you can actually save the video locally. But the great thing is it generates a quick link. So all you got to do is copy that link and paste it and then send it over. And then someone watches it just like they would watch a YouTube video, right? So it says link copied. And so for example, if I was trying to give feedback to an outsourced resource that was doing a brochure for me, I would pop up an email and say, hey, John, see link below for the comments. So instead of like trying to do a bunch of bulleted points on explaining stuff or a bunch of like, screenshots with arrows and text boxes explaining, just do a quick screencast recording. So I'm going to show you real quick an example. And I just pulled one actually from a very recent one that I used where I was trying to communicate to my marketing team how I wanted to differently position this award thing that we got for Inc. magazine on our website. So I'm going to show you a quick example of what it looks like in a real use case. Hey team, great job on kind of getting this award concept displayed on our homepage. But just one quick feedback. I know we're gonna do this as a placeholder of this plaque concept, but there's an award concept in the US that's called JD Power and Associates, and all the companies that do it, if you Google JD Power and Associates, you'll see and do an image search. How companies, when they showcase it on their website, they actually show like a physical image of like this trophy type award. And there's different concepts for this award that we won. So one is the plaque and the other is sort of these two trophy concepts. So I'd like to take this to a PNG of it. With the licensed logo that we purchased and showcase it here instead with the plaque. So this is fine for a placeholder, but let's see if we can swap that out next time. Thanks. So I share that because it's a perfect example of maybe the types of things, right? So that way I could quickly record it, send what I needed, copy to paste the link, they watch it, and it's an easy way of getting out of my head what I wanted. I could pull whatever I wanted on the screen to explain it, and then they can watch it multiple times until they get it right. So it makes it easy to communicate and it eliminates all of the back and forth confusion on stuff. So highly recommend screencasting. You'll explain more with the nuances of your voice than you will if you bullet point a bunch of stuff out, right? So when you can explain with your voice, just like you saw what I did, you are able to get better communication across and people will consume it faster as well. So screencasting is a really cool tool. Another side benefit of screencasting for any of you in your businesses that you're part of your sales process is that you have inputs from a potential prospects and then you create this long PDF and then email it to them for an RFP for a proposal, right? So you open up an email and say, hey, John, it's great speaking to you. See attached this PDF for the proposal. When can we get on the phone and talk about it, right? What if before you send that PDF over, you pulled it up, and with screencasting, you can also choose to show your screen, your face down on the bottom on the webcam, and you walk through it first, right? You say, hey, John, here's a sales proposal. Just want to walk through it. This, just like you saw me on that example there. So when you send that email over, say, hey, John, see attached the PDF, but click here for a quick video walkthrough of the proposal. Hey, they will consume that video way faster, and it lets you control how they consume walking through that proposal. Again, I cannot tell you, having done this thousands of times, I share this with people, and people start doing this for proposals and share feedback. They're like, Brad, they said they had never gotten a proposal review like that. So it is a very efficient way of kind of doing sales proposals as well, along with just, you can imagine any internal communication. Like I'm launching a new company with somebody, I was doing a financial model explanation. So before I had a call with them, I pulled up Excel and showed them how I did all the financial models so they could watch it, review it, understand it before we had our conversation. So screencast matting is critical. Another key tool is calendar appointment setting, automatic calendar booking. Some of you may be using these as well. I use one called Calendly. Basically, for any of you that play that game back and forth when you want to book a call with someone and you open up your calendar and you list a bunch of bullet points of the days and times when you're available, then they do the same thing with you and you play this game back and forth for hours. This is a tool that you can download. There's a free version. The paid version is like $10 a month, but it basically will sync with your calendar and then you can create links. So, if I was trying to have a call with Nikhil, I'd say, Nikhil, click here to book a call with me. And so he would just click on that. It would pop up a calendar and show when I'm available, right? He would click a time. He put in his name, put in his phone number, hit submit, and then it automatically loads in my calendar, loads in his calendar, and eliminates all that back and forth process. And particularly if you're ever going to have a VA or virtual staff manage email, cannot recommend enough an automatic booking tool like this. The other big benefit is for your sales teams. If any of you have sales teams that are still trying to book calls with people, getting your sales teams a calendar link so that people can book with them. Quick case study. There's a company that data scraped a bunch of email addresses they built websites for elementary schools. And they've blasted out emails to all these principals trying to get business to do their website development. And they said, hey, could we have a time to speak with you? Now you're putting the burden on that person to respond back and tell you when they can have a time to talk with you. They swapped over and did another email blast where they did the exact same offer, but they said, hey, just click here to book a link to do a demo. That got a 10 times increase in appointments. It wasn't that people weren't interested in their product or service. They just didn't have time to go look in their calendar and send you a bunch of times when they're available for talk to you to pitch your product to them, right? So it's a great additional tool for that. Another great tool when people are using outsourced resources to log into platforms or LinkedIn or website development or social media, they want to, how do I share my usernames and passwords and so forth. So there's a great tool called Dashlane. There's another called LastPass. that in essence lets you share usernames and passwords without ever giving people your username and password. So for example, Canva is the platform that I use. So if I wanted to give my VA log into Canva, I'd pull up Canva inside of Dashlane, click share, and all I do is put her email address in. Then Cass would get an email saying, hey, Brad wants to let you log into Canva, would let her log in, but never gives her my username and password, right? So it's a great way to share usernames and passwords. Like my VA right now has like logins to probably 50 things of mine and doesn't have a single username and password. And if I wanted to disconnect her, I click one button and it disconnects her from all of them. So this is a great tool. And even for your existing local employees that everybody's kind of work virtual and distributed, this is a great way to share logins as well.
Don't shout on there. You'll hurt your throat.
Oh, sounds like some good parenting going on there. Just quick to mute there. Another key tool to be successful with a distributed workforce, and a lot of you probably during COVID are moving in this direction, is just having a really solid web-based project management tool. Whether you're using Basecamp, you're using Asana, one that I really like is called teamwork.com. It's an Irish company, but it's you get your entire company on the cloud, and all your projects and your workflows all happen within that web-based platform. So you do all your workflows, all your projects and everything. And if you get a virtual staff, you set them up directly as a user in those platforms so that everybody's on the same page for workflow. So if you haven't checked it out, I recommend check out teamwork.com. And Teamwork actually has a whole chat platform built into it, just like Slack. And I have a video as well on the link I'll send you guys that kind of shows you how we exactly use web-based project management. But highly recommend using some kind of web-based project management tool. Another thing, and this is what every entrepreneur loves doing every day. We love jumping out of bed and creating processes, right? That's no fun. We'd rather start 9 more things, and we have all the different shiny balls we want to play with. But a great tool for doing process documentation is one called Process Street, process.st. And there's another one called Trainual. Actually, a fellow EO member launched it called trainual.com. But getting your processes documented, if you're going to integrate an outsourced resource into your business, right? If you integrate plug them into a messy situation, it's even going to make it, kind of worse. So whether you use some kind of internal tool, even if you're using Google Docs to kind of document processes, but if you're looking for a web-based software platform that will help guide your team to create workflows and processes that can be documented for your company, highly recommend checking out Process Street and trainual.com. And the last thing I'll share real quick, just particularly in the state of COVID that we've been in and having to do a lot of our sales processes now more virtually, and a lot of you may have done more in-person types of sales and so forth. One of the most powerful things that we did for our sales process and selling virtual assistant services for our clients is doing a sales call, pre-call video, right? And on our website, if people want to engage with us and talk to our sales team, we drive them first to this video. Because imagine in your business, right? A lot of your sales teams and so forth end up spending the first 15, 20 minutes of every call answering the same questions, right? About the business. And so I decided, using a screen beside me, using a mic and an iPhone, I walked through all the questions that everybody always asks about outsourcing. What about competency? What about time zones? What about this? What about that? And it's me as the owner answering all of those questions, so that when they get done with it, I pretty much addressed all of the key questions that they have. And it may just be a few things remaining. So before they can even have a call with our sales team, we require them to watch this video. And I can't tell you how powerful this has been to streamline and accelerate our sales process. Being able to get to 400 employees and 100, 200 clients in a couple of years, this has been a huge part of it. The other thing is it filters out people. If they're not willing to watch that video and go through and understand our process, then it's probably not a fit. And there's a key to also filming it from kind of the waist up from an energy standpoint, and then having that screen as well to show visuals, because I walk them through everything as well. So it's not just a talking head. But if you don't want to do that, it's another way you can use a tool like Screencast-O-Matic or Loom to do a screencast video as well that you can post on your website. So highly recommend it. It's an incredible value. You can actually, if you want to see ours, you go outsourceaccess.com/process. You can see exactly how we architected that. But I get tremendous feedback on it, and people actually start doing it immediately for their business after they see how we did it in ours. But for a virtual selling experience, it makes a big difference. All right, so I want to talk about the difference between kind of a virtual staff, a virtual assistant plugging into your business versus specialized skills, right? And this is what I came to learn and kind of going down this journey myself, is that There's one-off type of project-based things, people that do web development or do graphic design or video editing. Those are one-off specialized skill type projects versus what I call an integrated virtual staff, somebody that becomes a part of your team, just like Jacel, who you'll see became my very first VA. I'm like, you know what? This is great having all these one-off things that we need done, a lot of it marketing oriented. But I need somebody to take on stuff side by side with me in my business. All of that administrative and operational stuff I needed as an owner, and then also my other employees needed. So it's two different types of roles. So it's the difference between what I call kind of a cornerstone virtual staff that kind of plugs in and can be a part of your team. They do a lot of the work directly. And what you're looking for are people that are fast learners, good communicators, and can take, feedback. They absorb a lot of that administrative and operational clutter in your business versus specialized skills that you kind of use as needed, right? Hey, we need a brochure done. We need a website done. We need a video edited, right? And what's cool is you can actually get a virtual staff that plugs into your business, and then they can actually do a lot of work directly, but then they can sort of quarterback and manage those specialized resources. So when I very first brought on Jacel as my very first VA, a number of years ago, she was doing a lot of work directly. I'm like, hey, I need a video edited. Could you go find somebody on Fiverr that could do that? And so we ended up building this kind of virtual team. So when we launched Outsource Access, I actually modeled our entire company off of that. So when people hire us, they get a VA, but then we have over 200 specialized people supporting them because a VA can't be an expert in everything. So if you build your own kind of team and hire your own VA, I recommend highly this kind of structure. Now, some of you may not be in a place of needing someone to plug in directly into your business. Maybe you need to start on one of these specialized types of projects. But it's an architecture that I found worked really well in terms of how to build your outsourced resources. And then those virtual staff can plug in and support you directly or your key managers, right? And we got a client in Virginia that's got, they're in home health services. And he started off with a VA directly working for him. And then once he saw how powerful it was, he now has a VA working for his VP of operations, VP of sales, VP of marketing. And so that person plus the VA now are generating 5x value. The other thing that's interesting too, is that if you go down this path, it ends up creating retention as well, because these employees, they can't go work for anybody else where they're going to be provided a VA as a part of their business, right? So it actually becomes a retention tool if you kind of go down that path. So as far as the different virtual workforce platforms out there to find these workers, there's over 300 of them, right? And I could spend 5 hours going through all of them. And I'm going to send you a list of all the ones that are out there that you can kind of explore in that list that I'll send your way. But two of the biggest ones I'll talk about here are Upwork and Fiverr. So Upwork has got about, 25, 30 million people on this platform from all over the world with all kinds of different skill sets, and abilities. Sorry, my screen went black there for a second. So I just want to show you for example, this is what a profile looks like in Upwork. So if you go on there and you're looking for someone to do content writing or graphic design or video editing. So this is an individual, this happens to be in the United States. It shows their background. It shows what they want to be paid. And look, you never pay that hourly rate, by the way, right? You always negotiate. That's what they want, but you always negotiate. And I always recommend to do project-based pricing as well. I never do hourly rate when we hire on these kind of platforms. But it shows you how many jobs they've performed, what their rating is, what their availability is. If they say that they're skilled in a certain area, these platforms actually test them as skill sets and show how well they performed in them. And then it shows you, all their prior work history. So you see, for example, here, she made, it was only $8 an hour that she was paid versus 13. Now you go offshore, which is a bunch of other resources are on these platforms. You're even much lower rates. So that's Upwork is one of the platforms. And then Fiverr is another one of the big platforms that's out there. Tens of millions of workers all over the world that do different projects. This is another example of one. This is somebody that does logos on Fiverr, right? For $5 a piece, if you want to get a higher grade or do multiple versions of it, they charge 25 to 30, but still super low cost rates, right? And again, just like with Upwork, you want to look at what are their reviews? How are they being reviewed? What's the competency and quality of what they're doing? How do they describe the work that they do? Do they say, I make pretty logos, or do they actually show you detail and structure of exactly what you're going to get, right? So these platforms do a really good job of helping to prioritize people that do good work because they want to get you matched with somebody that does quality. So honestly, in our company, when we provide VAs directly, but for all of our talented specialized resources supporting them, a lot of them we found on Fiverr and Upwork, through the years. Another great platform just for content writers is one called writeraccess.com. So you can find content writers on Upwork and Fiverr, but if you're looking just for someone to do a lot of blog writing, press releases, Go to writeraccess.com. These are former editors of magazines and newspapers that are now stay-at-home moms and dads that are content writers. I mean, I had a former editor of a magazine just do a press release for us recently. I think I paid her $38 for a press release. It has a really good kind of management platform that you can manage all your content writers and so forth on there. Another platform I'll recommend, and I recommend this first of all, is anytime you're getting any work done that requires photos, right? If you're having somebody do website development or do blogs or what have you, and they need to do photography, never let them choose their own images, right? Always buy the images yourself. So one of my favorite platforms is called canstockphoto.com. I mean, the images are a couple of dollars a piece, a lot of great stock photography. So anytime somebody's doing work for us, I tell them, hey, go on here and find the photos you want to use in the design and then let me know which one it is and let me buy them. So I have them on file. Because there's all these trolling online attorneys that basically go and look for people that are using unlicensed images. And I mean, I had a buddy of mine get a bill for $2,000 in the mail the other day because he had an outsourced resource used a licensed Getty image resource that he shouldn't have used. So always buy your own photos and photography. There's some other free ones. One's called unsplash.com. I just really like CanStock Photo. They're super cheap and you can kind of have it documented. So what I'm going to dive in now is some of the specialized skill examples. So this is kind of in that category I was talking about here of ones that are kind of one-off types of projects that you can get done, right? And I could show way more than this, but in terms of our time, but I wanted to show you some examples that kind of fall in that category in the price points. So for example, website development is one of those specialized one-off types of things that you can get done. I mean, you can get custom websites for $150 to $250 done in a couple of weeks, right? Very low cost, very high quality. People look at our website. If you go to outsourceaccess.com, people look at that and they think I spent $30,000 on it. I mean, we got the first round of our website done in a couple of weeks for $800, right? So if you're looking to redo your website, if you're wanting to launch a new brand, a new division, you can get websites done very fast, very low cost. Graphic design, I mean, brochures, PDFs, white papers. This is an example of one. I was actually helping an EO that wanted to get a PDF white paper done on how to market and grow a dog walking business, right? Kind of random topic. So we posted on Fiverr and said, hey, we need somebody to write a whole ebook on how to market and grow a dog walking business that we can use as a free lead magnet to go after this market. Posted it. And in 2 days and for $26 US, got this entire 10-page like e-paper done. And the photos, we had them go on CanStock Photo to get the photos done, but was able to bring this to life very fast and very low cost, right? And this ends up being the hang up point that a lot of people have in their businesses of getting certain marketing projects done and so forth, is it's going to take too long and it's going to cost too much money. This allows you to get these things done fast and low cost. And then marketing automation, email marketing systems, you know, I could, again, spend a whole presentation just on these, but just trust me, whatever these, if you use any of these platforms, MailChimp or Infusionsoft or HubSpot or Salesforce or what have you, there are tons of phenomenal resources on Upwork and Fiverr that are complete experts. We ended up finding a number of years ago a resource out of Dubai that's for $5 to $8 an hour. They're experts in all these marketing automation platforms. So anytime we need them to go in and clean up a CRM database or go build nurture email sequences, very low cost, they'll go in and build it out. But all of these different ones have experts on these platforms. You know, another random example I'll share for any of you that are in construction, right? So this is actually a company that, there's a company in the US here that does custom doors and windows. They manufacture custom doors and windows. And their sales teams will go out and close all these deals and they have to come back and spend like 3 days in this software called PlanSwift and Bluebeam, very sophisticated software to do all the takeoffs, right? Take hours of their time. I'm like, hey, could we use this, concept to outsource this? And so post it on Fiverr, right? And within a couple of days, we got over 40 responses of people that were experts in PlanSwift and Bluebeam. And what you see here, this is actually from their portfolio on Fiverr. And so we ended up finding a guy for $12 an hour in Portugal that's a certified engineer that was able to take all of this off the plate of the sales team. Now the sales team can repurpose their efforts to go close more deals. This had a $250,000 impact on this company in the first 90 days. Right? So I just share these examples is that you're only limited by your own creativity. I encourage you to explore these platforms where you can find these resources. Virtual reality mockups, 3D renderings of things, right? You can get done very fast and low cost. For example, this isn't my house for privacy reasons, but a personal example, we were wanting to redo all the landscaping in the front of our house, right? And so we ripped all the bushes out and so forth. We were trying to get a local landscape architect to come in, do drawings. It was going to take like 8 weeks. They would have charged us like $1,500. I said, well, let me try Fiverr. So I went, took a picture of the front of our house, went and posted it. And I said, I want somebody to do a 3D rendering of our house. And then I showed them some examples of bushes and things that we liked from one of our local nurseries using Screencast-O-Matic. And in 2 days and for $50, they did a full 3D rendering of our home, did all kinds of mock-ups of different landscape concepts in the front of it, and even did a 3D drone flyover of the virtual mock-up that they did, right? So just crazy ways that you can use these resources that you never thought about. There's actually a guy that's in commercial painting. He does commercial painting here in the US, and they paint grocery stores, right? And typically that's a commodity business. They send in whoever has the lowest bid ends up getting the deal. Well, he learned about how to do this. And so what he does now is before he submits a bid, he goes on and gets a Google Earth shot of that grocery store. And then he has somebody on Fiverr go do a 3D rendering of it and a mock-up and showing what it's going to look like before and after he paints that grocery store. And it costs him like $75. So when he sends his bid over, he's like, here's my price. And oh, by the way, I had my internal department put together this 3D rendering for you. They think he spent $5,000 on doing this, and he did it for $75 on Fiverr. That is helping him close deals hand over fist over his competitors because of doing something different, right? Again, these are innovative ways you can use these strategies. Business plans, right? If you're looking to launch a new product, a new division, or start a new company, this is another guy on Fiverr that I found a number of years ago it's actually, sorry, his price now, I realized the other day, is $220, not $170. But for $220 in about 15, 20 days, they will build out an entire business plan for a model. They ask you a bunch of questions, and they'll produce an entire analysis, competitor analysis, financial forecast, and so forth. Now, do you take this right out of the gate and go to a bank and get a line of credit with it? No. But the amount of work and research that they put into this does all the heavy lifting, right? As entrepreneurs, we're trying to constantly get into that place where we're doing nothing but making strategic decisions and deciding which path to go. Or for your employees, right? This is maybe a task you would give an employee of like, hey, go research this market and put together a business plan, right? For a couple $100 in a week and a half, you can have an outsourced resource do all the heavy lifting so that you and your team are focusing on just analyzing the data, not creating it, right? For any of you that are in the marketing space and you got to do RFPs and do analysis for, presenting a marketing plan for a client, this is another great. We probably have about 17 marketing agencies we work with in our company providing virtual assistants for. And this is one of the biggest things that we help them with is do a lot of the background research. Data scraping and data mining. This is one of my favorite things to do when it comes to outsourcing. So data scraping and data mining, and some of you may be familiar with this, is basically there's tons of data on the web that exists out there. It's just a matter of getting it into your fingertips so that you can leverage it appropriately. We're talking about lead information, partner information, PR contacts, competitors, and so forth. And in essence, on these platforms, there are people that have whole teams that do nothing that will manually scrape the web. And sometimes they'll write a bot as well to go with it and put all that information in a spreadsheet for you, right? And typically it's like 10, 15, 20 cents a piece, and it's very accurate and highly targeted. So you can use this a zillion different ways, but to share an example for you really quick. So a couple of years ago, we were looking at getting into the pet space, right? And I wanted to find out how many marketing firms out there that go after and do work in the pet industry, right? So I did a screencast recording and I gave them an Excel template with the headers of what I was looking for. And I said, hey, I want you to go search the web and I want you to put in this spreadsheet all of the marketing firms that are doing work in the pet industry for veterinarians, for dog walking businesses, or what have you. And if you go to their website and they have a brochure, I want you to download their brochure and put it in a zip file as well so I can see their branding and their marketing, right? And in 2 days and for $17 US, they came back with a full spreadsheet of 150 company records of every marketing firm doing work in the pet industry and a zip file with all the brochures from those companies. So I could literally print them all off, put them out on a conference table, and immediately see all the branding for an entire industry, right? That's how powerful this is, right? In 2 days and for less than $20 US, I had instant market intelligence for an opportunity to kind of go after. And you can use this in tons of different ways. This is an example in another, a couple of years ago, there's a very large company. It's a $100 million aluminum manufacturer in the US here, right? Old school, been around for 50 years, do things the old school way. Well, so they had a new product that they wanted to launch, right? And how do they normally go about it? Well, we take sales reps and we go to all these trade shows, and maybe in about 12 to 18 months, we'll start getting POs and so forth. And I'm like, look, Let's shortcut all of that. Why don't we go after, they basically got a new product that would be put in the ground to help mark fiber when it gets put in the ground, right? And they want to go after telecom companies. I said, look, all we need to do is go data scrape all the telecom companies and put in a spreadsheet and go get the name, email address, and LinkedIn profile of all the C-suite executives for all these telecom companies you want to go after. And then once we get all that information, we're going to bring a VA in under each of your sales reps and go into their LinkedIn accounts and connect with all those people. Then we're going to send an email outreach to all of them. And for those that show actually opening the email and connect, we're then going to export those because we have their physical mailing address. And those are ones you're going to mail a sample of your product in the physical mail, right? So in about 90 days, they got 300 grand worth of POs for less than $2,000 of a project cost, right? So this is, again, changing the game on how you can rapidly launch and do stuff digitally and with strategy and growth hacking using these kind of resources versus traditional. And, case in point, like I talked about with the COVID opportunities, right? As soon as COVID hit, right? And our business has done well and helped a lot of people in the virtual space by providing VAs. But one of the things we wanted to offer to all of our clients and also offer as something to put out there is, where's all the growth and unique niche opportunities happening because of COVID, right? That's a massive data gathering exercise. Okay? What I did went to our data scraping team, did a screencast, and I said, look, I want you to go search the web because tons of people are writing about this, right? There's tons of articles about, hey, where there's growth opportunities in COVID and where there are niches and tons of things being posted on social media and Facebook or whatever. I said, I want you to go scrape the social landscape and all the articles, and I want you to put in one Google Doc all of the growth opportunities you're finding because of COVID. And in a couple of days, for less than $100, came back and had 120 and organized them by industry. Is it a short term? Is it long term? So we immediately had at our fingertips, where is there a lot of growth opportunities in the middle of a crisis and a pandemic, right? Getting this information at your fingertips makes you agile and versatile. And to share a whole nother random example, we wanted to start getting humor integrated into some of the stuff that we were doing in our business, because humor, when it comes to blog posts and Facebook, get the best click and engagement. And so I asked my VA, I said, JSL, I want you to go take one of my speaking presentations and go post it on Fiverr. I want you to go find a comedian that can write jokes about outsourcing that we can use for our blog posts and 3 long form jokes that I can use kind of in presentations. And she posted it. And from Fiverr in 2 days and for $21, I got 10 short form jokes written and 3 full stories done by a professional stand-up comedian in the United States, right? Now, you may not have a direct need for something like that, but I've just shared these wild examples because literally anything that you think about creatively, when you have 15, 20 million people in these platforms, you can tap these resources. And then utilizing it to crowdsource creativity as well. Again, when I went to go launch Outsource Access as a company, and a lot of you, when you've gone to launch your companies, how do you go about the process to get the brand created and the logo created and so forth, right? So one of my favorite resources to use is called 48hourlogo.com, right? Go to 48hourlogo.com. You go on there. And when I first launched Outsource Access, I posted on there and I had an initial idea of what I wanted for the logo, but I wasn't sure yet. So you go on there, you create a contest, it's $130 US to create a contest. You put your company name, give a brief description of what your company's about. They have you choose some of their sample logos to give the designers an idea of what kind of look and feel that you like. And then you can load anything else you want to give the people direction for the contest. So I uploaded this PDF and said, hey, these are the general colors I'm thinking about. Initially I thought I wanted this globe concept and a key to access global talent or whatever. Posted the contest. And what's great about it on this is that it's tapping cultures all over the world that all think differently, right? So in a couple of days, I got over 300 examples back, right? And some people did some very poor ones I didn't like, but then all of a sudden one designer came back with this cool O with an A in the middle of it, kind of like the Avenger concept. And I loved it. And then so using Screencast-O-Matic, right? I gave him direction and said, yeah, kind of like this. Can you tweak this? Can you tweak that? And in 7 days and for $130, I got an entire brand and logo done that I loved. Right? So it's a way to immediately launch them. Now there's a place also for using big branding firms and to do, focus groups and all that kind of stuff. But if you're looking to test a concept or want to get a product or concept out quickly, this is a great vehicle. And you're able to tap cultures all over the world that think way differently about design. So those are just some examples of kind of like specialized one-off type project things that you can kind of get done that hopefully see yourself through the lens of maybe some of those examples, but there's tons of others that we could dive into. So next I'm going to show you kind of the virtual assistant, the integrated virtual staff kind of model of like, okay, what are some examples? What I was talking about, someone that could plug in and work side by side with you in the business, but then can also sort of manage and find those specialized resources as well. And so for myself, as I shared, my journey is when I first started this whole outsourcing with the teeth whitening business, we had all these people we found on all these gig economy platforms, which are great, but it became a lot managing all of them. And I said, you know what, I need somebody to work side by side with me in my business. And everybody kept telling me about the Philippines. They're like, look, Brad, the Philippines is a place where it's, English is their second language. I mean, it was controlled by the United States until like 1947. So completely Americanized culture. English is their second language. They're graduating 800,000 four-year college degree individuals, but still, minimum wage is still $1 there. So you can pay people 4, 5, 6 times minimum wage, and they're making more money they've ever made in their life, and it's still a big savings. So I posted, and this young woman, Jaysel, I found my very first VA, 23 years old, and started working with her. And I almost didn't hire her because she didn't, and this is kind of a thing I'll share, is don't necessarily look for people that are incredibly experienced in being a virtual staff or virtual assistant, and that, they know all the technology that you're using. What you're looking for are people that are fast learners, good communicators, and take feedback. And when I read Jaysel's first review, she didn't have that direct experience, but the woman that was helping me at the time said, Brad, I think you ought to consider her. She's a fast learner. I think she'll learn quickly. So I said, okay. So I hired her, and I thought she was going to kind of, manage my email and do some light administrative stuff. And she just blew me away of like how fast and rapidly she wanted to learn. Infusionsoft is a software platform that we use. She went on and found out how to get certified on her own and just sent me a certificate and said, hey, Brad, I saw we use this. I went and got certified for us. Okay. Never had that happen before with an employee. Then she wanted to get Lean Six Sigma certified. So I got her certified in Lean Six Sigma, then got her project management certified. And so that was the beginning of my experience. If you do the right vetting and look for the right people that can plug into your company, you can find, and you treat them well, which is a big part of it as well, and pay them well and treat them well, you can find incredible individuals. So this young woman that started 4 or 5 years ago that I hired at 23 years old, who I thought was going to be my side virtual assistant, is now my chief operating officer over 400 people and blowing it out of the water relative to $300,000 US, COOs, sometime in the US. So the competency and ability is kind of, tremendous. So I'll share a quick video. When I was first starting to speak on this stuff, I would always describe what it's like and what a VA does and plugs into the business. And so I said, Jaysel, will you just go find like a video firm that can follow you around for a couple of days and just show people what this kind of looks like? And so I'll show you what that video is.
Hi, I'm Jaysel, and I'm Brad's virtual assistant, and this is how I start my day. Common tasks that a virtual assistant can help you include email management, project management, social media management, overseeing a team of freelancers, and even personal research, planning a travel, and the list goes on. I constantly seek improvement and personal growth, including becoming a certified project manager. In the Philippines, we have a culture of hard work and discipline, but we also strive for work-life balance. That's it. Talk to you in the next one. Bye.
And she's literally like 4.5, I think, feet tall, but just phenomenal. And that young woman changed my life. And that was me beginning of me learning this journey, and then ultimately led to kind of what we ended up building. She established for me the competence of what the competency and ability of these individuals are. And then I hired my second, then I had my third, then I had my fourth. And that was just when I was doing consulting and doing a lot of speaking around this stuff. And then led to, you know what? I mean, I think we could build a whole organization around this based on what I experienced there. And that's kind of what led to us, launching Outsource Access. So, but what I found is that when you're going to hire someone to work side by side for you in your company, to be a part of your team as an integrated virtual staff, virtual assistant, it's different than just hiring someone to do a logo or a website that's a one-off project. This is somebody who's going to be working side by side with you. So I recommend kind of setting a high bar. And so in our company, actually, these are all the assessments we put people through. When people want to work for us as a VA to work for clients, we put them through all these different assessments. And I'm going to send you a list of all these. And a lot of these are free tools out there that you can use if you want to go on one of these platforms and hire kind of directly on your own. But we do IQ testing, emotional intelligence testing, DISC profile testing. We actually use Culture Index now as well. And then we do other assessments for English grammar, typing proficiency, and project management, right? to determine somebody that's going to be competent to be able to plug into the business. And a lot of you may use other assessments. Some of you may use, Sanjeev was telling me about one called PMAPS that's out there. You may use Colby, you may use Strengths Finders. Whatever you use in your business to evaluate, put these same people through that, particularly for ones that you're looking to bring into your business. So what I found is like, when I found JCell, did I find a unicorn, or are there more people like this if we're going to build a company around it? And what I realized is you got to set a high bar for the right kind of people and then treat them really well and be fanatical like culture. And I'll share some more examples on that. So part of what you kind of have to engage when you're bringing a virtual staff in is what I call micro protocols, right? And so this is a perfect example I want to share with you of how I used a virtual staff to take on administrative and operational clutter for me when I was first starting, right? So one of the things that I needed to be doing from a speaking standpoint was getting a lot more video content out on social media, right? And so one of the things I was doing is I'd go to work out at the gym, I'd listen to a podcast, and when I was done, I'm walking out of the gym, I'd shoot a video and say, hey guys, I just listened to this podcast. Here's the top 3 takeaways. And people loved it because people would rather listen to the takeaways than the whole podcast. But I would shoot the video, and it was a pain for me to get it loaded, uploaded, tagged, distributed. So I just basically stopped doing it. So when I got on JCell, I'm like, hey, this is one of the things I want you to help me with. So we created a little mini protocol for her to help me with this process. So I would shoot the video, and then I found that Vimeo is an app, and it's where you can host videos, but it's also the best way I found to get a video from your cell phone up to the cloud, right? So I pull up Vimeo, as soon as I shoot the video, upload it to the cloud. Then the email address we set up on the account that would notify both JCell and me to let her know, hey, Brad just uploaded a video. That would let her get notified. She would then download the video, use a free app called Headliner that would put the captions on the bottom of it. Then she'd re-upload it, and then we'd use a tool called Buffer for $10 a month that then would post it all over social media, right? So what went from something cumbersome that I wasn't doing at all, doing a little micro protocol, a little blend of some technology and integrating JCell into that process. Once we had that done, I went from shooting a video to distribute it all over social media in from Atlanta to the Philippines and back in 7 to 10 minutes, right? So when you're thinking about this in your business, right, this is what you kind of have to boil some things down to. When you think about some of the things that you're currently doing that aren't a good use of your time or your staff are doing, right, you've got to draft kind of a little mini protocol process. It takes a little time to think about it like we did on this, but once it's done, it's done. So now all I had to do was shoot the videos and send it, and this whole protocol ran, and it generated a lot of opportunities for us. Another example of how I utilize JCell as kind of a quarterback in project management, and this is a great example, is all of us as entrepreneurs, right? We're the visionaries that have all these bright ideas, right? But we need people around us that bring them to action. And for those of you that run like EOS in your business, right, it's your integrator. And that's actually what JCell is. We're a full EOS shop. We actually have a phenomenal EO Philippines member that did all our implementation. And if you need a reference for an EOS implementer in Asia or otherwise, she actually does ones in the US as well. She's amazing. But an idea I had was, you know what? I want to be the first walk-in location in the United States that people can physically walk into to interview virtual staff from overseas, right? Now, most of our business all happens on the web, but having a physical location gives you more credibility and authority, right? But I said, before we can actually do this, I want to do like a 3D mock-up concept of what this walk-in facility could be like that we could post on our website. We can do a press release about it, create some buzz. So using Screencast-O-Matic, there's a co-working location in Atlanta called Rome. And all I did was pull up their website, right? I pulled up Rome and I had a screencast going. And I said, hey, I want to do a 3D walk-in concept for Outsource Access's walk-in location. And I wanted to kind of have this vibe. I like the wood here. I like the glass here. And I literally just navigated with my mouse and my voice. And then I want you to be able to walk down the hall and walk in a room and like have tables where people can sit here and interview people on screens. And then I did a Google Earth shot of a retail location called Vitamin Shop that we have here in the States. For some reason in my head, this is what it looked like, a little square kind of footprint. So I said, and this is kind of what I want the square footprint to look like. I double clicked on the front of it, like, in Google Earth, and then it brings you down to the front. And I said, I want the bushes to kind of look like this on the front and so forth. So I just took out of my head an idea I had. I did a 4-minute screencast recording, just walking through this concept. I gave it to JCell and I said, hey, I want you to go post this on Fiverr and go find somebody that can watch this and do a 3D mock-up concept of our walk-in location. And this is actually up on our website as well now. And then I'm going to show you, this is what the final product was of this 3D rendering concept that we got. And these people were a little bit blocky, but I was okay with it. And I wanted to have like a classroom in the back where we could hold like workshops for small business owners to come in and learn about outsourcing, how to use these resources. So they built that. So that went from an idea in my head, JCell posting it, got it done, and we got that done in 2 days for $38 US, right? A full 3D rendering walk-in concept of that building. And I only had to do one round of revisions. And also that's an amazing way. If any of you ever, if you're trying to give feedback on videos that you've gotten done. So the guy did the first version. It was pretty close, but not quite there. So I pulled the video up and did a screencast recording overlay on it. And all I did was play the video and pause it and tell him things I wanted adjusted. And then all I had to do was send him a screencast video of me doing a review of the video. And he nailed the revisions just on one round of edits. So 2 days and $38, we got that completely done, right? People think we'd spend $5-7 grand on that for 3D rendering CGI type of work, right? Again, incredible work you could get done, very low cost and very fast. And, personal tasks. There's all those things that happen to us as entrepreneurs, like cyclones coming through that, you don't plan for, that end up taking you off of track. Had those things happen to me. One of the things in our house, we had a tree fall near our home and it rattled a bunch of the natural gas pipelines that we ended up having to rip it all out and redo all the natural gas pipelines in our house, right? That's one of those things. I got a busy business. I'm growing. I don't have time to mess with this. My wife busy with our kids and so forth. Normally it's been hours calling contractors and what have you. So I said, you know what, let me try this. So all I did was shoot a video and I walked through and I said, hey, this is what was ripped out. I need someone to come in and do all the drywall repair for this. And I did about a 2-minute video walking through it, narrating it. And then I just sent it over to JCell in the Philippines and said, JCell, use this video, go post on Angie's List, Home Advisor, which are some platforms we have here in the US for getting contractors. And I want you to just post a video because I explained everything in the video. And I only want people to have 5-star reviews and go shortlist it for me. In a couple of days, she got, 3 contractors that were amazing. So we didn't have to do all the heavy lifting work. Another example I love sharing is, my watch was broken, right? I tried replacing the battery. That didn't solve the problem. And so I said, well, let me try it. So all I did was take a picture of it so that JCell could zoom in and see the brand and the serial number, upload it, say, JCell, can you research online, find this company and figure out where the repair facility is to send it in to get it fixed? Uploaded the picture. She zoomed in, searched online, found the repair facility, downloaded the repair documentation, filled it all out because she has my name, my address, and so forth, zoomed in on the picture to get the serial number she needed to put in there, logged into my UPS account using Dashlane to generate a shipping label and had it all in my inbox next morning. So all I did was send a picture in a direction. The next morning I had the shipping label and the documentation. So all I had to do was print it off, drop it in a box to ship it out, right? So I just share these as examples as like the death by paper cuts in life. It's all the little things that add up that if you get a good resource plugged in that can take all this stuff off your plate. Recently, we were holding a birthday party for our daughter and we needed to find a company around Atlanta area that offered unicorns, right? That had ponies that would dress up as unicorns, right? So instead of my wife or me searching, just asked my VA and said, hey, could you go search the web, go put in a spreadsheet list of companies that offer that for us to use for her birthday. So there's tons of things that fall in that personal task category, along with kind of business, buying gifts, email management, LinkedIn management, all kinds of things. I love sharing this example because it kind of ties it all together. This is a guy that's in commercial real estate in Atlanta, right? And he wanted to do things differently to generate lead opportunities, right? So how do most people in commercial real estate go and get leads? They go to, charity events, they go to chambers of commerce, they shake hands, they get business cards, they come back, they put them in the CRM. He said, you know what? I want to, knowing how to do all this low cost stuff, what if I created a whole brand that people go to when they want to find out about Atlanta office space, basically an educational resource. So knowing how to do this, he launched this entire brand, right? So he got a logo done, Atlanta office search. He got a website built. He got animated videos done on the website explaining the whole leasing process. He got infographics made. He got blogs written. He got a whole little calculator made by a guy on Fiverr that people would put in their square footage they want. And it would estimate the costs. And he got a person to write a whole ebook called To Renew or To Relocate. So when people went on the site, it was getting them educated about the whole process. But this is his lead magnet that he captured names and email addresses as well. And people think he spent 10, 15, 20 grand. It takes 6 months to get this done. He got this entire thing launched in 2 weeks for $840 US, right? So I like sharing this example because it's a way of tying all this stuff together that if you want to launch a new brand, a new concept, you can get things out the door and up in a couple of weeks. You can fail fast and cheap, right? Or you can be successful fast and cheap by getting things up and done very low cost. It just gives you an agility to launch and test things very quickly and very rapidly. Example during the pandemic, when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do to help generate leads and during the kind of the pandemic and how could we be helpful to people. So immediately I got a content writer to help create an ebook called The Business Survival and Opportunity Playbook during coronavirus. So when other companies are, figuring out how to navigate all of this, a couple of days for $5, had somebody do this 3D rendering up on our website. We created a URL called outsourceaccess.com/help. People would go to it. You can still go to that. You can see it, put their name and email address in, and that would send them this ebook that we had written with just key strategies on how to navigate, and gave them a link to those 125 growth opportunities that we created, right? So within a couple of days between creating that list and creating that ebook, we were immediately being able to do lead generation and helping people and supporting people through this journey. And then once they opted in, they go into a 20-part nurture email sequence, educating them around how to support them, building authority, sharing case studies and examples, and answering all the typical FAQs that we get about our business. If I did not have virtual assistants and content writers, that would have never gotten done, right? Able to use those resources to get the content written. I would tweak and adjust it. I do a final review on the final content, but then VAs go in and create all this stuff in our CRM, create the timers, create the links, upload the images, and so forth. So these are examples of what kind of each of those emails look like in that nurture sequence. But at the bottom of every single one of those is a call to action. So when they're ready to move forward, they have a button they can click, and it takes them right to that process video where we walk them through our entire model. And we're getting 17% conversion on that. I had our team research it just by having that little lead magnet, which we have a different one up on our website now. If you go to outsourceaccess.com, you'll see a different one. It's the top 7 tasks. You can get immediate ROI with a VA. We've gotten over $1 million in incremental revenue just by having that little lead magnet on our site that we would have never gotten if we didn't have that option. Because there's people that just want to start an education process with you. They don't necessarily want to call a phone number. They don't want to fill out your contact form, but help and aid them in the education process. And if people go through all of our nurture and they don't end up converting, then we have what we call our addictive tool series, where we just send one cool tool once a week. And that's all we do. Not an ask, not a sell. We just say, hey, here's a cool tool that you may find helpful. And we have a 95% retention rate on that sequence. So it's about what I call, you can leverage these resources. And again, this falls into the bucket for a lot of people, things that they haven't gotten to, is leveraging these resources to keep leads and prospects in your business on the nurture wheel, right? All the things that we can be doing in marketing with email and social media and video and what have you that we're not doing. These allow a low-cost, structured way to stay on the nurture wheel. So you're there when someone does have a life and business event. And we've had people that, they heard me or saw content from us 18 months ago, and they're just now making the decision. But because we have consistent content that they're seeing weekly, we're staying top of mind, but we're earning the right to stay in their inbox and educating them. And when you look at kind of going forward, this is another example of a company in a physical repair industry. This is a commercial HVAC repair business that is in Atlanta here, and they repair commercial refrigerator units for like Walmart, for Amazon, and so forth. And never thought that outsourcing could work in a very blue collar business out there. And started with his first VA to do nothing but help support his CFO, because they had a lot of trouble getting their receivables in. So how do VA support their CFO? And just by having a VA go and start chasing down receivables for the CFO who wasn't getting it done, was able to eliminate their line of credit, $500,000 line of credit. They no longer needed it inside of 6 months. And then they started adding a second and a third and a fourth, and finding different ways they could supplement their W-2 employees with VAs to make a difference in their business. And now they've got 15 VAs in the Philippines that support all their existing kind of W-2 staff in the process, right? And it's now actually it's had over a $2.5 million impact on their business. They have, quadrupled revenue. They're getting private equity offers left and right, because in an industry that's traditionally mom and pop, commercial HVAC repair, they're doing this differently. And now he's able to launch regional markets faster and quicker than any of his competitors. He's blowing them away because he has this agile back-end operation to support him, right? So it's a way you can kind of crawl, walk, run to integrate. And for any of you, kind of big on Jim Collins, and you've kind of looked at his process map, and he talks about the different kind of key functions of growing a successful business. And one of the things he talks about is this bullets before cannonballs, right? How can you do small, incremental, low-cost tests before you put all your company's resources, all the gunpowder before you hurl a cannonball, right? And that's one of the biggest things that this helps with, is doing incremental, low-cost tests and strategies before you launch big projects, right? So as you can see, I mean, the objective here, hopefully, is you're seeing we can take time, money, and knowledge off the table as an excuse for not doing things, right? You really can. And I found that over and over again. I mean, you can launch a whole new business or project in a couple of weeks for less than $500. You can test a new market. You can supplement your existing staff and get them to their highest and best use of time. The level of agility that it gives you. I mean, our largest client has 82 VAs with us, right? It's allowed them to grow dramatically because they are able to leverage low-cost offshore resources and expanding their business. And I'll share a quick example here right here before we finish, and I'll go through some Q&A, is, even from an EO perspective, right? So when I was SAP chair for EO Atlanta, I remember going to GLC and they gave us this list and said, hey, here's all the types of companies you should be going after who are good sponsors for EO. So knowing how to do all the stuff that I knew, I said, the first thing I did is I got that list. So here's the list from GLC and says, all right, here's all the business categories you should be going after for SAPs for Atlanta. And then I went and data scraped, and I did a data scrape request using a screencast. And I went to my data scraper and I said, look, I want you to go all over Atlanta, and I want you to go find all the companies that are in these categories. And then I want you to create a spreadsheet for me and put the name, email address, and LinkedIn profile of the owner, the marketing director, and the sales director. And then we made it very exclusive. So instead of begging SAPs for money, we made it very exclusive and did an email, a form fill email, where we would plug in the name of their company and so forth and reach out and say, hey, your company has chosen to be considered to be an SAP for EO Atlanta. If you would like to be considered, we have 15 exclusive spots to come to a luncheon that we're hosting if you would like to attend. So I had a VA send this out and log into my LinkedIn account and go connect with all these people on LinkedIn and do that outreach. We had a showing for the luncheon. In between referrals and people showing up for that, we raised over $90,000 in SAP money in 60 days, right? Again, this is just an example. Knowing how to activate information and do these low-cost, fast growth hacking strategies, you can get things done very fast and very cheap. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this is exactly how, this whole concept of when I was president for Atlanta, I'm like, how can we get our members connected? Typically an EO chapter, any member-based organization kind of looks like this, where, there's some members that have hard lines between them that know each other really well, like you're in forum together and what have you. There's some members that have dotted lines. Maybe you had a brief chat with somebody at a learning event. You sort of know somebody, but there's a lot of dots that don't know each other at all. So I said, what if we could take the member list and take VAs and take the software to do the pairings and do this rapid kind of collision and then make it look like this? And that's what we did. So we took the list of our members. We had a VA go fill in, because for our membership, we had names, email addresses, and websites. We went and got everybody's LinkedIn profiles. We got all their bios off their websites. We kind of did a little bit of data scraping to build that full kind of list of our members, so that when we did the email intro, we could put that. So here's an example of that email intro. So it'd say, hey, Ling and Jason, here's both of your information. Just want to connect the two of you. And, we're going to ask Jason to take the lead to initiate the meeting. And as simple as that. And then EO wrote this article about it, and now we ended up launching a whole business around it, one-on-one-connections.com. So again, knowing this stuff and the phenomenal technology that Jason created on doing kind of the pairing strategy, we got a business out of the ground in a couple of weeks, very cheap and very low cost. So hopefully you're kind of seeing kind of how this model can work. And as I shared, this difference between an integrated virtual staff that you plug into work side by side into your business versus kind of specialized one-off projects, and your entry point may be one or both. But it's kind of the model that you can build, and ultimately, take time, money, and knowledge, off the table, to kind of get your business into a whole different place and redefining how you scale. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, I mentioned a ton of resources and templates and tools. If you just send an email to tools@outsourceaccess.com, put EO MEPA Bridge in the subject line. Happy to send all that to you. And as I mentioned, I'll also share, if you guys are in a forum and like for me to do kind of a virtual deep dive just with you and your businesses and kind of hear your specific questions around outsourcing and BAs. I've done 25 or 30 of them and they always go really well. Happy to do it. And then Jason offers the same thing. Sorry, I had another graphic there, around experience and UX design, which is his expertise around software and even in your business website and how you're structured. So he offers a deep dive virtual session as well. So as I said, we're going to go through a lot of content. It's recorded, but my goal was here is wherever you are on the spectrum, if you're just starting or you're fully experienced, that that you found something here, you see yourself and your business through the lens and can maybe take your game to the next level if you're already doing it, or kind of give you an entry point to kind of start the process. So with that, I will pop over to the chat and see what everybody's been asking here and see what questions that we've addressed and which ones are open. Eric, any feedback here in the meantime, real quick, as I take a quick look on the chat?
Yeah, thanks for this great delivery. I've got a lot of notes, a lot of websites to go and have a look to. There was a question that was asked by Nikhil at the beginning, trying to find it. Nikhil, if you can ask your question.
Yeah,
saying
sure.
what.
So Brad, my question was, you've delivered this amazing presentation, and it's clear to me that you're an expert in this field, and you've mastered the art of taking the stuff you don't want to work on and delegating that away. So I'm curious about what you're actually spending your time on now. Now that you've got all this free time on your hands, where does it go? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, now having kind of a full operation management team. So I mean, I've got probably 45 managers in the Philippines. I mean, again, running EOS, I have 7 kind of senior managers. Jay Sell is my COO. And I've even moved myself, for those of you, again, that you do EOS, you know, about level 10 meetings. I'm doing kind of one level 10 meeting, you know, per month. But for me, I'm spending most of my time in strategic partnership opportunities for some larger scale types of businesses and opportunities that we're partnering with. There's a lot of consulting, like a lot of EOS kind of advisors and other business consultants that they're looking for. Everybody's been hearing about this outsourcing VA stuff, but people have just had failed experiences and they'd love to recommend it to their clients, but they just want somebody they can trust that actually can do a good job. So I'm doing a lot of strategic partnership around that. And then just thought leadership. I'm working on a book right now. I got that podcast that I'm doing and interviewing people like Warren Rustan and others to kind of build thought leadership and authority. Just building authority and brand equity. Making sure our team is applying for all the different awards that we can win, like that Inc. Magazine award that we just won. And then 90% of my time is actually spent in EO leadership meetings. So that's actually where most of my time is probably spent. But no, that's actually being a regional leader for EO and EO doing leadership in EO. That's actually quite a bit of time where I spend. And this big organization has been a massive part of my journey. And so I give back a lot there and a regional leadership, and I'm in charge of path of leadership and mentorship and my EO and member engagement for our region. So spending a good time there. And then, Jason and I with this one-on-one connection business, that's, it's given me the capacity, to be able to kind of get that underway and start that business. And always wanted kind of a software business. And Jason's always wanted one kind of in this space with a recurring kind of opportunity. So we've been pushing that ahead as well at the same time. And then, to be honest, my family, I mean, I got a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, this is prime time of their younger years where my presence and impression from a parenting and a father standpoint is super critical. And I mean, I make breakfast in there every single morning. I'm down making, dinner at 5 o'clock, every single night. I do have some travel, but it makes me be able to be very, very present with my family. A lot of more vacations than we've been able to take because I can work virtually and have a team that's running things. So it's allowed me to recapture a whole level of my personal life that I, didn't have before.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I saw that Ritesh raised his hands. Ritesh?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Brad. Hi from Kenya. Thanks for a really insightful presentation. I had a couple of questions that really kind of connect around one. Many people here are from the Middle East, Pakistan, Africa, where labor costs are significantly lower than in the global north, in the US or Europe. So I guess 2 questions connected to this. One is there really a cost savings, or are we looking for efficiency and drive? And then what does someone like a virtual, obviously JC's now become your COO, but
right.
What would someone like her have cost at the entry point, as a VA?
Sure. And that's what I asked too. I mean, I'm always interested when there's different global markets, when they reached out, Sanjeev and Eric about this, because I know that there's definitely countries represented here where you have much different, cost, structures. So I'm always interested because I've spoken for Bahrain and a couple other chapters in that region, and people have always found a lot of value in kind of what I'm sharing. But I know that it has different value in different countries, kind of depending on what your kind of labor cost structure is. So part of what I found is a lot of people, they may choose to hire, locally for that low cost. And this kind of gives them a bunch of examples of how to better utilize those resources from an efficiency standpoint. But even if people are in countries with low cost labor, what I found, We actually have a client in Kenya that we work with, but they just weren't able to find someone that had the right competency and kind of skill set at the lower cost level. So they chose to work in the Philippines to find somebody that was maybe a little bit more expensive than what they truly could hire locally. But it was worth it in terms of what they were able to get in terms of skill setting and competency. And as far as entry point, when you talk about these different platforms, if you're going to hire direct on a platform like for like a direct VA kind of plugging into your business, like in the Philippines, I mean, it can be as little as $3, $4, $5 an hour US. And again, it depends on the competency and ability and years of experience and things that you're kind of looking for. But like I said, I focused on people. What I found is when we tried to hire people that had a lot more experience, what I found is I got people with a lot of bad habits and people that were job hoppers. I'd rather get people kind of in their early to mid 20s that are hungry, they want to learn, they want to be a part of an organization, and also weren't quite as expensive. But we're also investing in their growth and their development. So $3, $4, $5, $6 an hour if you're going to hire directly. If you're going to go through kind of like a firm, like with what we do, where we actually source, manage, find, and they're a part. So we actually employ everybody as full-time employees in the Philippines. So I have a corporate entity there. So we pay their health insurance, pay their benefits, and so forth. And there's other similar companies like that out there. But it's more like $8 to $9 an hour, US. So like in our business, it's like $16.95 a month for a full-time dedicated staff. But in our model, all we do is full-time, right? And so if you want to do an entry point, finding someone part-time, you can kind of go through those platforms. But that's typically kind of the range. You can get in certain areas. I mean, you can get as low as $1.50 to $2.50 an hour. It also depends on where people are living. If they're living in larger municipalities versus if they're living in more of the kind of the provinces and stuff. But part of our commitment is trying to drive the compensation level up, and then all the additional benefits and so forth that we try and provide. We kind of hire them as employees. But I don't know kind of how that varies in terms of what the type of talent and cost structure you can kind of get locally, but that's sort of the range there.
Thanks. And if I can comment, Brad,
one question.
It's not only about it's not only about hiring a virtual assistant. It's also about getting things done. Like your own LinkedIn post or getting someone to write an article about you. There are a lot of things which are one-off, or getting to someone to develop your website, or somebody to, write some blog posts for you. So there, what I've understood, Brad, and if you would correct me, have you ever made a list of things that you can use outsourcing websites, and what's the best site for which one that, that a typical organization, because that will be really, really helpful. And
yep. So actually on that, so part of what I'll send you guys, if y'all just send an email to that tool, Outsource Access, I'm going to send you a list of tools and all these different outsourcing resources categorized by different functions as well. So you'll kind of have a full kind of organized document that kind of categorizes things by different functions kind of within the business, and then the different resources that we recommend for each one.
Yeah, and Asad, you had a question. You have your hand raised. If you can ask that.
Hey, Brad, amazing stuff. A true eye opener. So over the past couple of years, I mean, I export product to the US, and over the past couple of years, I've used a couple of market intelligence companies to kind of do some research for us. And it was quite funny, but because both of them came up with different sets of data, and then we cross-reference it with data from that we had from the government here, and none of them that matched up, and we just didn't know what data was true, what data was correct. So I was just wondering, is there like a way to figure out like how these guys are getting the data and which data that they get to do their reports? How do you verify that the data is correct?
So a couple things I'd say is, first, if you're going to hire like a resource like on Upwork or a Fiverr or what have you, is really just making sure to look at their prior work history, how they've performed, how they've been rated, because those that do a very poor job and do a sloppy job of data aggregation and data research are going to get poor reviews. And that's how these platforms kind of purge poor performers off, pretty quickly. So the first step is just really making sure you're using one that has a good reputation and good kind of background. Secondly, and again, you may have done this in terms of communication, but using like a screencast kind of recording to communicate exactly what you're looking for and to be crystal clear. That's one of the biggest things I found the value of doing screencasting is that it eliminates any kind of lack of clarity and communication. Because I found that sometimes people aren't producing the right results because they're not completely sure or knowing exactly what needs to be done. And in some countries as well that may be doing the work, like there's a lot of great data scraping teams in India. If there's a little bit of a language gap, sometimes if it's written versus kind of what you show in screencasts and explaining it verbally as well, you end up getting kind of better results. So those are just some baseline things that can just start off helping get better. But then if you actually get the results back and it's just poor blanks that are filled, it just depends on what data you're trying to validate, right? So for example, like if we have somebody data scrapes, one of the data scraping groups that I use, when they go to data scrape and they do emails, before they send me that list back, they put everything through a tool called neverbounce.com that actually runs all the emails and runs a ping test on all the servers to make sure that they're actually valid and accurate. But I always have, whenever I have somebody do data scraping, before they do the whole project, I say, here's what I'm looking for, and then send me back 100 test records, right? Before you go do the whole project, I want you to send me back, or make it 20 or 50, but usually I'll say 100 test records to make sure that they're on track with what I'm wanting. And that way, sometimes it's just miscommunication or lack of clarity, but that way we can find out in that first set, are they going to be on target or not? And sometimes you just have some poor performers out there. And a lot of times when I do data scraping, I mean, it took us a while to find the ones that we use consistently, but I'll put it out to 3 or 4 because it's so low cost. Is I'll do 3 or 4 and let them all test and say, hey, here's what I'm looking for. Here's the screencast recording. Here's a link to the Google spreadsheet template with the headers that I'm looking for. I want you to do this and send me back 50 test records. And then we'll take a look at it and see which ones actually hit the mark or not. And then use that as a way to kind of go deeper with them. So for example, with Jason and I doing this, I don't know if he was able to join or not here. So raise your hand, Jason. I'll pop on. I want to introduce him briefly. But going after chambers of commerce, right? So chambers of commerce is a channel that we know is a great opportunity in the United States that has massive turnover with their membership, 30 to 40% turnover in chambers of commerce every single year. So went on and found that there is a website that lists every single chamber of commerce in the country. And you can go grab that information off, put it in a spreadsheet, cross-reference it, and then go find the people that are in charge of member engagement for each of those chambers of commerce and fill it in. So I actually had 2 of our data scrape teams do that to test records and found out who did the best job on it. And then found one that did the better job and then had them do kind of the rest of it. So I don't have a silver bullet answer on it. It's just doing a really good job on the setup, evaluating the people that you're working with to make sure they have strong credibility, doing great communication with screencasting and setting up the template of what we're looking for. Have them do some test records first before they spend a bunch of time with somebody that's going to do a poor job, and use that to kind of dive deep with them. And then keep that person in your toolbox. The 200 specialized people that we have supporting our VAs in our company, that's a list we've built over the last 7 or 8 years, trial and error, using people that we found would do a good job. I want to take a moment. If Jason's on here real quick, I just want him to pop on, just quickly introduce himself. I know I've referenced him. He's in Vancouver right now. I'm unable to join at the beginning. I normally kind of pop him on there, but Jason, if you're there, I just want to say hello real quick.
Brad, he was on here. I don't know what happened, but he was here earlier. I don't see him in
okay.
He's dropped off.
Okay, I guess he popped off there. Any other questions? Top of mind, see if I pop on here. And I know we're a little bit over time, but I'm happy to stay. I don't have an immediate kind of after this, so I'm happy to stay on and do Q&A here with you guys. Let's see. It's another one that came on here. Thank you for everybody that's posting these needs here. A carpet, market intelligence, 48-hour, for a VA. Yeah.
There's a question from Saurabh. He's asking, as a B2B SaaS.
B2B.
You see the question? Yeah.
Yeah. Should we spend limited marketing budget on lead generation or brand awareness? Lead generation. I mean, at least if I was going to have my quick answer. So that example that I shared about the aluminum company, right? And that's what you're seeing. The way when I go to launch a company, so for example, like this one-on-one connection program that we're doing, right? I mean, we're doing it for free with, as a right now, at least as an in-kind sponsor within the EO community to kind of build traction and so forth. But the immediate places that I see the opportunity to grow are going after all these professional trade associations. So I'm not going to go spend a bunch of money on Google ads or Facebook ads or what have you to try and go build that. I'm immediately going to go data scrape exactly the people I want to go after, just like I shared. So we're immediately doing a data scrape of all of the directors for all the chambers of commerce so that we can do an outreach to all of them. And it's going to be just like I shared on that aluminum company. I'm going to do an email outreach. I'm going to have a VA login in my LinkedIn account. Before that though, and this is one thing I will say, actually one step before that, before you do a massive outreach initiative, get your assets created that you're going to share, right? Have a decent website put up. Like you guys see, if you go to oneononeconnections.com, you'll actually see a little animated video there that says how to, well, you see a video of me at the top explaining it. You see like a little animated video there that says how does it work? So before we launched that, I immediately had our team put together a little video, and that cost me like $200. And it's an amazing little animated video. So now, once I data scrape all these member engagement directors, because people much prefer a 2-minute or less video that explains to them the concept. So when we do all this outreach to all these member engagement directors for all these chambers of commerce, and then I did the same thing for all of the professional trade associations in the United States. So we Googled that, and there's a wiki page that lists every single trade association in the United States. Again, same problem, lots of members, high turnover. They would get a lot of value from getting their members connected. But we created that video first so that when we do our outreach, we have something of an asset that we can send them in that process. So we're about to scale. I'm gonna have a VA, very low cost, go take that entire list, log in my LinkedIn account and just do thousands of outreaches to those people, right? Very low cost, very efficient. Will all of them convert? No, but it's a way to rapidly get out. So if I'm looking at spending budget, I would honestly kind of do with the playbook that I just shared and what I did before. I do a data scrape, who are exactly your targets, but have a good asset that you're sending them to and be educational in nature. The other thing I like to send them to, in addition to having a video asset, is having a blog of a case study written on our website. Because nobody likes to get hit up on LinkedIn and immediately hit up with a sales call. Hey, I saw you did so-and-so. I'd love to tell you about our web application services. If I get another one of those, I'm gonna choke somebody, right? Instead of asking me that, say, hey, Brad, saw you, thought I'd share with you a quick case study blog on our website of how we helped an outsourcing company double their lead generation with a web development project, right? And then send them to a link to a blog on our website where we educate them about that. So before you do the outreach, have some good assets that you can send them to. They're educational and engaging that then can, because then we get them to our website, they start reading that blog. And then after 10 seconds, what happens? That lead magnet shuts the screen down and says, hey, top 7 tasks to get ROI from a VA. They opt into that, sends it to that, then puts them on the 20-part nurture sequence. If they don't opt in, then it puts them into, I have 2 years worth of those addictive tool series that goes once a week, right? I'm keeping these people on the nurture sequence for life. If they want to opt out, fine. It's not a fit. They're not seeing value. But if I've done a good job of creating educational content to help them in their journey, they're going to stay. That's why we have a 95% retention rate on that addictive tool series that we do kind of long-term. So it's get your back-end game plan and your assets and your marketing built before you go spend. And another thing is people spend all this money on pay-per-click and ads, and they send them to the homepage of their website where they have 0 engaging call to action. It's like, here's a phone number or here's our contact form, right? They don't send them to something engaging to convert. I'm not saying that's the case with all you guys. I'm just speaking from experience and what I did wrongly myself in the past. But use these outsourced resources to create engaging, like I shared with with Ryan on Atlanta office search. He went and created and got all these assets created, little videos about the leasing process, got infographics made and so forth. Create educational content, then set those content asset pieces up, then go data scrape all the leads you want to go after, and then have that to be able to send them to educate them and advise them, not just trying to get a sales pitch. And use Calendly too. Whenever you're doing your reach out, I can't tell you enough. Seen that one example, that one company from cold outreach to actually putting Calendly, I literally got a 10 times increase in appointments for their sales teams from just spamming people, honestly. But the difference was just putting a Calendly link because they made it easy, because they're like, oh, the last thing I can do is go look at my calendar and go tell you all the times that I'm available, right? Just delete. So recommend adding each of these pieces in the equation. And if you want to do the additional asset, like I said, I'd recommend, Saurabh, as well, is doing that sales video on your website, right? And particularly a lot of us as the owners, we're better at articulating the value proposition and what we do better than ever, and showcase that in a video on your site and drive them to that so that you're pre-telling the story and educating. And then so like right below that on the video on our site, when people want to move forward, it's like, yep, the video answered all my questions. I'm ready to get started. And they click and purchase and begin the process for them to get a VA. Or there's a second button that says, Brad, I loved your video, but I got more questions. I want to book a call. Then they book a call with somebody in the Philippines from our team that they're not having to do a heavy lift and explain the whole world. all they got to do is answer polished final questions, not all the front end stuff already answered. So sorry, I went a little deeper on that rabbit hole, but it's like, I kind of enjoyed it. It's building that whole architecture. If you're going to launch a brand new business, take the time to get these assets and processes in place, and then just turn on the machine of going after and driving those leads to those assets.
Thank you, Brad. I think that was an awesome answer. Guys, any final questions? We can probably take one or two more questions. Yeah, Safa, you have raised your hand. If you can go ahead with your question. And Eric,
maybe it's not. Thanks a lot, Brad, for this. Really liked it and really pumped up. That's my second time to hear this. I had it with the Bahrain chapter the first time. What was that? Was a bit of a repeat for me, but it's a reinforcement. It's a request.
Good.
May I connect with you offline? We're trying to grow membership in MEPA, Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan, and would love to test drive on some of the tools that you have here to generate leads or to close leads on members in countries that you don't have anybody in. Maybe more of a request than more of a request.
No, I'm happy to share some of the growth hack stuff. I mean, every role I've done in EO, I mean, I've always there's always some VA administrative stuff kind of behind it. And the big thing we're doing in the US here is around the Inc. 5000 awards and doing, inviting people, scraping the entire Inc. 5000 list and people that are winners of that, and doing initiatives and outreaches. So yeah, I'm happy to connect, and I'll be connected with Sanjeev and I think Assad and Eric. We're going to roll out this one-on-one connection thing for you guys for MEPA to start doing these kind of connections. And when you're ready, we can even add the SAP. I'm telling you, it is amazing for SAPs. It is, incredible value for them. Their ability to write that check every year, once you've given them 20 to 30 one-on-one meetings per year, is a bit of a different game. So hopefully it'll be helpful for you guys on that side. So awesome, everybody. I know we're a little over time here. I don't want to eat into the rest of your afternoon, but again, I know we went through a lot of examples and there's a lot to cover in this space, but hopefully this gave you some insight. And again, you'll have my email address. We'll send a follow-up to you, and happy to kind of if I could be of support. And Sanjeev, thanks again for that YouTube deal, the talk that you do. I'll be following up with you on that. Love to do that for your group as well.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Eric, handing over to you for the closure.
Thanks. Nikhil, would you make a picture of everyone?
Should have done that when everybody was still on.
Yeah. So let's do it. Brad, thank you very much.
Put the screen share off, and then we can take a picture of everyone in the gallery view.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
So whoever's left, we had 40 people in here at one stage, and we're down to 14. Brad, while I have the mic, feedback surveys come back, instant feedback. You got a 9.6 rating, 9.7 if you round up. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate it. Well, I know it's an interesting world. And again, with people being in all kinds of different countries and different labor costs in different countries, I know this has varying applicability, but like Sanjeev said, it's partly, getting things done is kind of what this is, about, and just activating those resources. If you have them locally, in your country, activate it.
Yeah.
Engaging and leveraging them, kind of appropriately. So,
yeah.
Okay. Great cross section of folks here.
Let's take this photo. Let's say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Smiling faces, everybody. Cameras on. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Thank you,
Brad. Thank you very much for this really mind-brain opener for me. And I didn't know there was all these tools around. I will remember one word: fever.com. I'll try it for my interior decorator needs that I need now. So thank you very much for this fantastic delivery.
Ah, my pleasure. Yeah, Fiverr is actually based in Israel, over by you guys. Their stock, by the way, went from $19 a share to $250 a share during all the COVID madness when people started gravitating in this direction. So, well, awesome, guys. Glad to build some additional relationships. And hopefully I'll be maybe in some of your countries visiting in the coming years, and love to connect up. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.